In the beginning was a word, and it was definitely not in Hebrew. Therefore, Israel himself is not a Hebrew. Don't forget, Israel is the father of the 12 tribes. Therefore, God himself is the father of Judah and the father of Joseph. So if Jesus is from the tribe of Joseph, how could someone say he's from the tribe of Judah when Judah is his uncle? So if Jesus is kin or cousins to Phares, or also known as Perez, how could he be his brother? In other words, the cousin of Jesus is from the tribe of Judah, while Jesus himself is from the tribe of Joseph, and his grandfather is God himself, also known as Israel. Therefore, Jesus from the tribe of Joseph is the grandson of God. So let's read. You who are standing in the house of Jehovah, in the house of our God, praise Jah, for Jehovah is good. Make melody to his name, which is Jacob. Therefore, he goes by the name of Israel. Therefore, he goes by the name of Abraham, because Abraham is the father of many peoples, and he kept glory without stain. Then Isaac renewed the same promise because of Abraham his father. The covenant with all his forebears was confirmed, and the blessing rested upon the head of Jacob. God acknowledged Jacob as the firstborn and gave him his inheritance. He fixed the boundaries for his tribes. In other words, Jacob is Isaac, Jacob is Abraham. In other words, the power of the Trinity is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God fathers himself, is the same God, is not the Son of God. So who is the Son of God? Moses. So from Jacob was to spring the man who won favor of all, dear to God and men, who goes by the name of Moses. Therefore, Moses is Joseph, because Israel loved Joseph more than all his children. Don't forget, from Jacob sprang Moses. And we don't hear the 12 tribes with Moses and being included as part of the 12 sons of Jacob. Therefore, Moses is Joseph. So let's watch what they're saying.
Have you ever noticed the followers of Christianity only use the letters of Paul? You may ask yourself, do these so-called Christians believe in Paul more than Christ? Why, you may ask? It's because they don't truly understand the letters of Paul.
Just like he don't truly understand who the real Christ is. The real Christ is Joseph. They're saying the Most High in Christ. I don't know what that means. Are they trying to say that Jesus is Christ and he's the Most High also? When in fact Jesus is the grandson of God? I don't hear them say that either. So who's really confused?
See, Peter himself wrote about the difficulty of Paul's letters. 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 16.
Paul is a Jewish historian that they started writing about in around the 15th century. In other words, they just placed Paul in the first century and used him as a historian, just like they did with Flavius Josephus. They just basically made up a Jewish historian, placed him in the first century to continue their narrative. Because according to their narrative, Jesus was crucified and he was here 2,000 years ago, and then Moses died 3,400 years ago, and then Solomon died 3,000 years ago. So how could Solomon and Moses both be with Sheba? As if they're saying that Sheba lived for over 600 years. While the Bible clearly states in Ezekiel 38 that Sheba is supposed to be here in the latter years. So she's here in the latter years. That means King David and his son Solomon is supposed to be here in the latter years. Not 3,400 years ago, according to Paul.
As also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things.
An epistle is someone that never spoke to Jesus, because Jesus wasn't here 2,000 years ago. So they just made up epistles, placed them in the first century to continue their false narrative of a fake crucifixional story.
Which some things are hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest, as they do the other scriptures, unto their own destruction.
So if I was you, I would start telling people that the real God of Israel represents Ethiopia. He was crowned King of Kings, Lord of Lords, King of Zion. Y'all need to start saying that if you're going to call yourself an Israelite.
He became governor of the province. In 1928, he led the troops that killed Empress Zovitu's husband, who was not of royal blood, and became regent. He became emperor on November 2nd, 1930, and was crowned Haile Selassie I, King of Kings, King of Zion, conquering lion of the seed of Judah.
Notice he's going to conquer the seeds of Judah because Judah has been lying. They've been changing around the story. They want you to think that Jesus is God. But how could Jesus be God when
States that Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, was a prophet of God and not God. John chapter 7, verse 16. Jesus answered them and said, "My doctrine is not mine, but his who sent me." Sounds like a prophet and messenger to me. Acts chapter 3, verse 22. For Moses truly said to the fathers, "The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your brethren."
Don't forget, Jesus is the successor of Moses. Jesus goes by the name of Joshua, and it was Moses who named him Joshua. Therefore, Jesus' moms gave him a different name. But then Moses is like, yo, your name is Jesus, also known as Joshua, also known as Jeshua, also known as Yeshua. Moses is his father.
Him you shall hear in all things whatever he says to you. A prophet like me? Sounds like a prophet and messenger to me.
In other words, Moses is a Messiah, and he's the one who taught Joshua, because that's his dad. Moses is Joshua's dad. That's why Jesus is the successor of Moses. So Jesus, the son of Nav, or the son of Nun, was valiant in wars and was a successor of Moses, who according to his name was made great for the saving of the elect of God. So in other words, it goes from God to Moses to Jesus, and they were all together at the same time. So Jesus fought in the sight of the Lord, and he followed the mighty one. In other words, the mighty one of Israel is his grandfather in the time of Moses. So Jesus is together with the mighty one and Moses. So they're all together at the same time. The same Jesus follows the God of Israel. So, O Israel, how great is the house of God, and how large is the place of his possession. In other words, Israel is God. Israel is the grandfather of Jesus. Great and have none end, high and unmeasurable. There were giants famous from the beginning that was of so great stature and so expert in war. Those did not the Lord choose, but they were destroyed because they had no wisdom and perished through their own foolishness. So as you could clearly see, Jesus' father, who goes by the name of Joseph, in the time of distress kept the commandment, because Joseph is Moses, and he was made Lord of Egypt, while Jesus, fulfilling the word, was made a judge. In other words, Jesus is not the Lord. His father Joseph becomes Lord. So who is Joseph? Israel loved Joseph more than all his children. In other words, Joseph is Christ. So these are the generations of Jacob and Joseph. So remember, Joseph becomes Lord, and Jesus is the son of David. Therefore, David is just another name for Joseph. So while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them, "What do you think of Christ? Whose son is he?" They, the Pharisees, say unto Jesus, the son of David. In other words, the Pharisees are the ones that tell you that Jesus is Christ. When in fact, Jesus said, yo, how then doth David in spirit call him Lord? Don't forget, David is Joseph, and Jesus is the son of Joseph. He's the son of David. The Lord said unto my Lord, sit thou at my right hand till I make thy enemies thy footstool. If David then calls him Lord, in other words, David is the one sitting at his right hand, how could his son, me, Jesus, be Christ? In other words, say the truth. So Jesus fulfills the word by becoming a judge, while his father Joseph becomes the Lord. That's why Jesus will tell you he's not Christ or God.
John chapter 14, verse 28. You have heard me say to you, I am going away and coming back to you. If you loved me, you would rejoice, because I said I am going to the Father, for the Father is greater than I.
Hello, wake up. Like, stop changing the story and following the wrong people. Especially Paul.
Yes.
You think Paul wrote Ephesians?
Yes, he did.
I want him to go to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 8. Okay, so
Sure.
it says Christ was giving gifts, whatever they are, to people
Right.
in such a proportion. Okay, and then it says,
Okay.
therefore it says, when he ascended on high, he led a host of captives and he gave gifts to men. Okay,
Right.
so you know that this is a Old Testament quotation, right?
There was not an Old and New Testament format. That was created in the 15th century in Europe. The original Ethiopian Bible was called the Book of Testament. It's supposed to be one book. That's why Haile Selassie said the Bible should not be cut into portions. So there's not an Old and New Testaments. It's just called the Book of the Testament.
It could be. I'm not sure.
It's a quotation from Psalm 68:18.
Okay.
Can you go to Psalm 68:18?
Sure.
Read it line by line.
Thou hast descended on high. Thou
Okay,
hast
stop.
lifted.
Okay.
Okay.
Ascended on high. So far, so good. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Thou hast led captivity captive.
Okay, led captivity captive. So far, so good. It's matching Ephesians. Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
Thou hast received gifts for men.
That has received gifts.
Mhm.
That has received gifts.
Interesting. Let's see
Interesting.
here.
And what does Paul say? It says you gave gifts to men.
Okay.
You see, in Paul's rationale and his mode of thinking, he's trying to prove here that Christ proportioned grace to everyone in a certain proportion.
So they're both referring to the wrong Christ. Either way, you got caught up in his lie. Don't follow Paul. Paul got you thinking stuff like this.
Three of the persons. I said,
No,
did
worship the
Jesus
Father.
worship three persons, or did he only
He wor-
worship one person?
He worshiped the Father.
So he only worshipped one person.
Yeah, he's one of the people in the
Okay,
Trinity.
good. How many persons do you worship?
Oh yeah, so me, I'm a Trinitarian, so I.
So you worship three persons.
Three persons, one God.
Right. So Jesus worshipped a different God than the God that you worship.
No.
Remember, the Holy Trinity is Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. One God who fathers himself. So the Trinity is in reference to one God. That's what the first commandment said, put no other God above me. So the Trinity is obviously Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. The same one God.
Because he's part of the God.
Yeah. So when he's in his earthly ministry, did he worship one person or three persons?
The Father, one person.
So one person. Good.
Yeah.
How many persons do you worship?
Three persons,
Three
one God.
persons.
It's a
So you
Trinity.
worship a different God than the God that Jesus worshipped.
Hello, pay attention to yourself. Don't forget, it doesn't matter your color, because even a white person could tell you that.
This is a land of myth and legend.
Oh my goodness. Look at this.
Inside, vivid wall paintings tell the story of Ethiopia's spectacular heritage. Christianity was declared a state religion here in the 4th century.
This isn't a religion that was imposed on Ethiopia. This is homegrown Christianity. Long before.
In other words, Ethiopia originated Christianity, but you don't hear the Hebrew Israelites directing you to the King of Kings, who was actually crowned King of Zion in Ethiopia. So their Israel hasn't been here yet. Yet still, they want you to call yourself a Hebrew Israelite.
Is on
I don't know why, when in the beginning it was not in Hebrew. So according to the book of Revelation, God is depicted as coming before the major wars. And Trump is literally telling you he's going to Gaza, which means another major war is about to happen. Yet still, their God has not been here. So where's your God at? You're calling yourself a Hebrew Israelite, so where is he and where is he going to be crowned? So that's more proof that Haile Selassie is God himself. He was literally crowned King of Zion, and he was born before World War I and World War II. Way before everyone. So let's read. In the genealogy of Jesus is given from Abraham to Joseph, the husband of Mary. In other words, Abraham is Isaac, Abraham is Jacob. Jacob is Joseph's dad, the husband of Mary, who gave birth to Jesus. While Judah this is the father of Perez and Zerah. And it will tell you in the Apocrypha that Jesus is kin to Phares, also known as Perez. Therefore, Jesus from the tribe of Joseph, and his uncle is Judah. So he's not from the tribe of Judah. So who's the king of Zion? The king of Zion are Ethiopians. So Empress Johannes IV was considered the king of Zion. And who was the biblical Ethiopian king? Haile Selassie I. As mentioned in the Bible, it says Selassie related to King David. They're from the same lineage. Yet still, they want you to call yourself a Hebrew Israelite. When they didn't start speaking Hebrew since the 10th century or 6th century. In other words, around 3,000 years ago, when in fact they were speaking Ethiopian over 7,000 years ago. Follow Jah. not man, the father language.